on the May webinar entitled 5 Simple Ways to Pay Down Your Debt Faster. My name is Joe Larson, and I am the Program Director here at Family Life Services. And before we get too far into things, I'm going to go ahead and just open with a word of prayer and ask God's blessing on today's webinar. So Heavenly Father, we just thank you for today, Lord, and thank you for technology and the opportunity we have to connect with people all around the country. Lord, we want to thank you for just the willingness for those participants that are with us today, that they're looking for opportunities to be better stewards of their finances. And we would ask that you would honor that, Lord, and that you would allow them to just accomplish the desires of their hearts. And so as we go through this together today, I pray that things stick with them. They're able to implement some change in their lives and ultimately get their debt paid down at a much quicker pace. So again, thank you for this time. We ask these things in your name. Amen. All right. Well, as mentioned, my name is Joe Larson. I am the Program Director here. I've been a credit counselor for Family Life for 8 years. I've got my own personal experience with debt and challenges, and been able to work my way out of those and build a little wealth along the way. But as I was preparing the webinar for this month, it started out as 5 simple ways to pay down your debt faster, and it just changed to simple ways to pay down your debt. And as you kind of dig into those topics, those are hot topics for our clients and our communities, and so I kind of wanted to keep it a little bit more broad and touch on several different ways. So as we go, some things will be fairly elementary, while others might be a little bit more challenging. And so let's go ahead and get started. Some different effective ways to pay down your debt. Let's start out by just talking about an emergency fund. That's going to be the best way to kind of set yourself up to get your debt paid down faster. First of all, it really takes the pressure off you, as you begin to make headway on your debt. Having some sort of emergency fund set aside in savings really does take the pressure off and allows you to send off chunks of money to your creditors. It also leaves some room for error, that emergency fund does. So that's a big part of your success in being able to get your debt paid down. We're also going to talk about lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes basically force financial change. And so that's a big part of seeing success and being able to see your debt paid down as well. And then we're going to also ask you to become more active in your finances, and that's all done, through this whole phase of getting your debt paid down. It's just not, one simple suggestion to say go do this and you're going to see your debt paid down. We're going to go through several different options. So let's really take a look at that emergency fund to get you started. Level 1 emergency fund, within the industry, typically an emergency fund consists of anywhere between $500 and $1,500. And that's mostly in order to cover just those little expenses that happen in life, whether you need new tires, your refrigerator goes out. Car repairs are very common. And you always, it seems like, as soon as you get somewhere, you've got an unexpected bill that hits you. So, to kind of get things started, that emergency fund is important. And it starts between that $500 and $1,500 range. The level 2 emergency fund, it's not so much an emergency fund, but it's more of just a savings that sits there for larger expenses and family emergencies. Those things seem to pop up from time to time. And the level 3 is what we would consider that long-term savings of where you've got 3 to 6 months income sitting in some sort of cash reserve. It doesn't necessarily have to be cash, but something that you have immediate access to that would cover you in case of job loss or some sort of major setback. Now, again, going back to what I originally said at the beginning is that to get your debt paid down faster, you need to really set a solid foundation. And so before you begin dumping all your extra money and anything that comes along the way, towards your debt, it is important that you establish some sort of a savings and some sort of fund, depending upon your lifestyle, your monthly expenses, your family size, and so forth. So really consider that, that savings as a solid foundation to see success in the future. All right, now there's different ways to pay, to pay down that debt. We're going to talk about two, kind of main, and they don't have necessarily catchy titles, anything, but there's ways to pay which would consist of actually saving and paying. All right, and those are what we consider cash savings, which is seen immediately to where you can immediately write that check to pay down your debt. The other thing is a little bit more psychological. All right, and what I mean is, this type of option takes some serious mental training, as it's more of an emotional lifestyle change, which equals or turns into cash savings. So we're gonna go through those as well here, the actual savings and paying, and the psychological methods. Now the actual, that is probably the most common and most thought about ways. These are some basic and ways to find ways to pay down your debt faster, and can be complicated too. But let's just go through some real basic ideas. And one option is just the old spare change in the jar. Those that travel with cash and pay with cash these days, seems like we're always getting some change, got loose change laying around the house. We're dropping that in a jar. At the end of the week, end of the month, we're going to take that. We're going to go and deposit that and write a check out immediately, to one of our debts to get paid down. A more common trend is the round up each transaction. So those that are using your debit cards, there are banks these days that will do this for you. And what that means is if you went out and ate dinner tonight and it was $12.86, they're going to go ahead and round that up to $13. So there's going to be basically 14 cents that's going to be pulled out and pushed into a savings account. You can do that yourself. A lot of banks do offer this as a service, a free service. And so when it comes time to balance your checkbook, rather than writing $12.86, you're going to go ahead and write $13 in there. And then you'll be able to see that change, the 13, 14 cents, whatever the transaction might be, rolled over into savings. And then after a period of time, you can access that, or you can access it immediately, but at a certain time, you can just go ahead and use those funds however you see fit. And rounding up each transaction, that's one of my wife's favorite, as she did that before we were married. We've been married for 12 years, and so before we were married, she would oftentimes just round up and all of a sudden establish a nice little savings account for herself to where she could use it for different things. Another option is the auto transfer, and that includes the direct depositors through a bank. And what the auto transfer would be is, on your payday, if you've got direct deposit, you can talk to your HR or whoever's in charge of the direct deposit and link, part of your paycheck to go specifically into a separate account each month. And what that would do is, let's just say you got paid $800, and that would be traditionally put into your account every couple weeks. You can have $50 put into a separate account, which you'll just consider that as your pay went down to $750, but yet you got an extra $50 going to a separate account, which you can go ahead and write directly to your creditor. Seems like when money's tight, regardless of how much money you make, you're always going to be tight. The money's going to be gone at the end of the month. So the more that you can really force yourself to save, to put towards debt, the better. A lot of times we feel like, oh, we just got to go, pay for this expense, and this expense. Whereas, a lot of times we can do without if we're fairly committed to paying that debt down. And so setting up an auto transfer is a big deal these days. And again, offered through your HR or a lot of times your bank will allow you to do that too. We personally, my family, we have an account set up to where each pay period on specific days during the month, they will actually go in and withdraw money from a specific checking account, our primary account, and deposit that into a separate account across town, which makes it more difficult to use. And so when big expenses come up, we may just access that. All right, the next thing is Craigslist. Craigslist, as many of you may know, is such a great resource to generate revenues for your family. You can sell something. You can search for free things, which ultimately, would allow you to pay yourself and pay down creditors. I'll give you a couple examples. We recently moved into a new house. The past owners left a few items around the house, and so we ended up taking those items. I was going to actually throw those away. We had a dumpster outside the house to clean out things that were left, but I was encouraged, hey, just post these on Craigslist and ask this much money. So I did, and literally before the end of the day, same day, 4 hours later, I had cash in my pocket. It was about $120 that I had generated just from a couple of things on Craigslist, which I thought was garbage. So look around your house, look for things that you can put on Craigslist. It's free, very simple. If you have a smartphone, you can access and post from your phone, which really makes it simple. And in doing so, generates that immediate cash that you can pay down your debt. There are things that you can do. There's a lot of places, a lot of people that post free things. They just don't want to dispose of it. They want to offer it free. And another idea is, an example would be we have in our new house, it has a lot of rock landscaping, and the rock landscaping is something that we're going to get rid of. Now, I could sit and scoop those rocks myself and set them on the curb and put free, but instead I went ahead and just listed those on Craigslist as free rock, but it needs to be removed themselves. And so there's people that have come and said, you know what, I can take this rock, I can put a little sweat equity in, and then turn around and sell it on Craigslist myself. And so I'm not the first one to do that. So I've had people coming, past my house and, digging my rocks out. And so I'm not paying a landscaper, and I'm not paying to have it removed, but basically, creating a service for somebody to go and even make some money for themselves. Now, it may come to that stage where I have to dig it out myself, and then I can even sell that too. But again, use that money to pay yourself, pay your debt down, and you'll be able to see that rapid growth, rapid reduction in your debt as well. Everything counts. All right, and even if you need to use it to start up your reserve fund, your emergency fund, that's a big deal too. Next thing, let's talk about is some side jobs. Right, there's some side jobs that we kind of forget about. We think are elementary, but paper route. I can't tell you how many people we deal with that decide to go on and get a paper route, and they say, you know what, there's an option that I can even split with a neighbor, a friend. So I'm not responsible every day, but it is an extra source of income that I can put directly towards my debt to get that debt paid down. Telephone book delivery, this is more of seasonal, so if you're not into doing the regular paper route deal, that you can go and do the telephone book delivery. Again, I don't want to sound too primitive, too elementary, but these are sources that we have to, when we want to pay that debt down fast, we've got to look for all opportunities that work well with our schedules, and we've got to determine if it's a good fit for us or not. Then odd jobs. It seems like there's always somebody that needs an odd job, and my wife and I, we laid carpet in our basement and decided to pay ourselves versus pay somebody else. Now, does it look great? No, it doesn't look fantastic, but it's temporary and certainly affordable. So we kept that money in our pocket. All right, a more practical option is coupon shopping. All types of different coupons these days that we can take advantage of. Coupon shopping has gotten huge. Now, if you're currently not using coupons, this is a great way for you to begin saving money and put that towards your debt. An example would be if you go to, and you clip $20 worth of coupons and you use those this week on items that you would have traditionally purchased. What you would do is that after you see your receipt, you've gone through the checkout, you see your receipt and see I saved $20 using coupons, go ahead and write yourself a check for $20 that you can apply towards that debt. As you see those coupons begin to accumulate, those are literally dollars that you're putting towards your debt. And there's a lot of people that have found great success. Now, it's not something that's always easy, but it's something that you can see immediate results from. And that's a big part of it, to be able to see those results. One thing, let's see, write checks in another bank for amount saved. That works the best for a lot of people. If you just keep it in your same account, it's going to get mixed in there, and you're going to find something you think you need, and it's going to be gone. I always say put it into a separate account, and maybe every couple weeks or once a month, use whatever excess funds you have to put towards your debt. And that way it feels like you're making big steps. Share a meal. Now, again, this sounds kind of bizarre and kind of hokey, but tell you what, my wife and I for years would always just go and each get a separate meal and, get drinks, and, the bill would be, whatever, $30. Well, nowadays, just for purposes of trying to be a bit more frugal with, today's economy and the challenges we all face, is we've decided to share a meal. Again, being practical, saying, all right, is there places that maybe offer a free appetizer, whether it's fresh bread with delicious butter, or do they offer peanuts, chips, salsa, what it might be, that we could go there and almost have a free appetizer, and then we share a meal, and then a lot of times we order water, and in doing so, boy, the bill's cut in half, or maybe not half, but a nice chunk, and so that's a great opportunity to share a meal and write yourself that check again. And there's several opportunities if you see yourself eating out on a regular basis to do that. And it's good on the waistline too. It seems like we always end up eating more than we wanted to begin with anyway. So, in Proverbs 14:23, it says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Again, important to remember. We can give you 20 different options, but ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to you making decisions to implement those change. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. If it was easy, there wouldn't be the kind of debt, situation that we have in America. It takes honest, hard work, and a focus to really, target that debt, to get that paid down. Now let's talk about some of the psychological things for saving, okay? Psychological may not be the best thing, but it's the only thing I could kind of think of to kind of throw that into. A big part is to evaluate your lifestyle. There's so many things that we feel we're attached to that we can't give up. Some things we look at are a necessity versus, if we give those up, we basically put ourselves in such a better position. A good example was you'd much rather pay yourself versus pay that coffee cart or eating out or pedicure, cable, whatever that might be. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is when you can change that psychological behavior in your mind and your attachment to something, that all of a sudden it begins to be exciting to pay yourself. I find great joy in writing out a check to my savings account than I do when I finish a meal and I'm full, all right? And I say, boy, now I got to pay for this meal. And so, there's times where we make conscientious decisions to say, there's a time in my life where, probably 3 times a week I was, buying a $4 coffee and then eating out a couple times a week for lunch and, adding on these several things. And then when I made that conscientious decision to say, I'm going to, instead of paying that $4 coffee today, what I'm going to do? I'm going to write that down, and at the end of today, I'm going to see how many things I can give up that ultimately I would have been writing a check to somebody else, and I'm going to write that check into my savings account. As a family, there's those days where you're tired and you say, Mom doesn't feel like cooking dinner, Dad doesn't feel like cooking dinner. We should go out for a meal. We take the 3 kids with us. $40 later, $50 in some cases. Everybody's equally, either still hungry or overeaten, whatever it might be. But we made that conscious decision to say, in those circumstances, those are the ones that really make or break our budget. Those are the ones that really make a difference in our ability to pay down our debt or stay out of debt. And so to come home and say, let's just make pancakes and eggs for dinner tonight. Let's keep it cheap. And we're going to write that $45, $50 check out to our savings. And you see it add up, and it makes such a decision, an impact on your bottom line. Cable, satellite, whatever it might be. Again, we feel like we have this emotional connection or attachment to it. We feel like we deserve it, but yet we also live with that bondage of saying, man, I have to pay this debt now. What do I need to do to get it done with? And so training your mind to think through those difficult, challenging psychological situations is important. Another thing is to pass on a purchase. Excuse me. A good example would be my wife and I years ago had looked at purchasing a television, and so we actually had a little bit of debt that we were paying down, but yet we also had a TV that we're saving for. I know it sounds a little lopsided. We're saving for a TV while we had debt, but we were trying to be good about it and put money away. When it came time to actually go buy the television, we had the money in hand. We went and looked at the big box store to purchase the television. We actually looked at each other and said, you know what? This is money that we could actually use. And it hadn't dawned on us. I mean, it dawned on us, but yet it wasn't a reality until we were ready to hand that money over. But we said, you know what? Let's actually use that money and go write a check out, to our debt. And we did that. And boy, was that fulfilling. Now, we didn't have the new TV, but the gratification of knowing that we passed on a purchase to pay down the debt, was a great feeling. And so, that was a way that we could write ourselves a check and see the scale tip a little bit in our favor. And again, we could easily justify it and say this is our only entertainment, this is the way we do things, but yet we chose to battle that psychological decision-making process and write ourselves the check versus the big box store. So that's a very real challenge. I'm very aware that everybody has to face, and so that's something that you have to take on that battle yourself and determine what you're willing to do, what you're willing to give up to see your debt paid down at a much faster pace. Now and later. Well, let's talk about that. Through sound decisions, your debt now can equal savings later. All right? Your debt now can equal savings later. So although you're right now faced with the challenge of paying down your debt, you can see that turn into savings later because you've made those difficult decisions, whether it's passing on the newest technology to see your debt paid down faster, or it's cutting out a certain daily habit, coffee habit you might have. Whatever it might be, those decisions you make now turns your debt into savings later. As soon as your debt is paid off, you're not going to just jump back into that lifestyle of, I'm going to go buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that. No, you're going to have taught yourself good principles, good options on how to keep yourself out of debt, and you're going to be putting that money into savings, which, on earth is a bit more security at this point, and a big deal. Through the process, it's important to make it a family event, okay? Some examples would be in our family, what we could see the kids getting involved with is getting weekly updates. Where are we at, as a family, saving for a family trip, paying down a debt, whatever it might be. These are just some suggestions you guys might want to consider is give weekly updates, whether it's to your spouse, whether it's to your kids. Say, here's how much we saved this week. Here's how much we've put towards our debt this week. And almost have a thermometer or some sort of something to show the progress. One thing we use, or you could use, is a traveling trophy, or prizes. All right, who in the family was able to find ways to save more this week to put towards our debt, or whether it's choosing water or passing on dinner, eating out, or whatever that might be. They get credited for those decisions and make it a family event. Have a leaderboard. Golf, they've got leaderboards. This person has found ways to save here, there, and pay down debt. It's great money skills, great teaching moments to kids and for ourselves. When you begin to see your child pass on something because they start to see the importance, it encourages you, and everybody kind of fuels off each other, and it's a great learning tool for everybody, and a great way to challenge each other and encourage each other, and it's fantastic. Results equal fever. When you begin to see results take place within your budget, you begin to grasp and get a fever to want to do more, look for more ways, and it gets to be contagious within the family. Is it always easy? No, it's not always easy. As a matter of fact, it's difficult. Oftentimes it's a lot more difficult to begin with, but as soon as you start to see those results, boy, it can really be an encouragement. And as I said before, a great learning tool. Some other things that I didn't put on there, I'm just going to touch on for 2 seconds is, if you currently are not enrolled on our debt management program and you're dealing with creditors, one thing you may want to consider to do that will immediately make a difference is to call and talk to your creditors to see if you can get your interest rate reduced. Okay, this is more of a action now, results immediately. Is call and talk to your creditors and see if there's anything they can do to get your interest rate reduced, even if it means closing your account just to get that interest rate reduced. Having your interest rate reduced will make a great impact on seeing your debt paid down. And then also, another thing is to pay any additional monies towards your highest interest rate account first. If you want to get a small account paid off quickly, that's fine. But in the grand scheme of things, any account you're paying the highest interest rate on, that's what you want to pay off, first, just because of the fact that they are charging you the highest fees according to your balances. So, but other than that, guys, there is a psychological barrier you have to break through. There's not just the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's more or less choosing and really sticking to those decisions and building a strong foundation of a reserve. And then once you've got the reserve, saying, this is what I'm going to go after, and these are the decisions I'm going to make, and really going after those and teaching yourself and teaching your family how to deal with those. If you do have questions about, if you should take this approach or that approach, don't ever hesitate to call myself or email me. My email account is joe@familylifecredit.org. You can follow the Family Life blog by going to our website, familylifecredit.org/blog. Follow us on Facebook. That's a great way to kind of stay connected with articles we write, blog posts, different things that are happening within the industry, money saving tips. Also, if you're a Twitter follower, you can receive our feed at Family Life Credit CS. And never hesitate to call us. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to just invest in looking at ways that you can pay down your debt faster and get rid of that burden, that bondage that daily looms over you and your family. And I just pray that God rewards you in your efforts. And never hesitate to use Family Life as a resource. Ask your questions, bounce ideas off of us. And if you ever have any topics that you'd like us to include going forward too, just shoot us an email, and we'll do our best to get those addressed as well. So thank you. Look forward to any questions, right? Thank you, and God bless.